Welcome to episode 6 of WhiskZ Talks, where we speak all things whiskey from people involved from farm to mouth and everything in between. Today's guest is someone who is comfortable playing around with some casks that some others may not be able to get access to, and from an area that is well known for Australian whisky. John Jarvis from Hobart Whisky. Hobart Whisky. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Mate, so first off, as I ask everyone, what are you currently drinking today, or what's your current bottle you've got open?
I've got a few open bottles. So last night I went on a bit of a rampage and cracked open the Ben Riach from the Australian Whisky Appreciation Society.
Nice.
Good drop. Really enjoyed it. Cracked open a Lefroy Scotch Malt Whisky Society bottling. Mm-hmm. And then also went to town with a Ardbeg Corov Reckon as well, which is a staple on my shelf. But right now I'm actually not drinking anything really exciting at all. It's our Tasmanian Malt product from our Tasmanian Spirit Company range of all things. It sort of hit 5 o'clock and thought I'd go with something a little bit lighter after a night last night of cask strength. So that's where I'm at.
I was going to say, I'm drinking from the bourbon maple finish. So that's the 55. So I'm going something a bit light as well. So
yeah.
So talking about that part there, let's get straight into a bit of the promotion. We've got an event on next week, next Saturday, 1st of August. So about a week away. Is there still time for people to grab packs? And what are
Absolutely. So I am express posting packs now. I've had a few orders come in over the weekend, which won't get out until tomorrow. I reckon if people can order before tomorrow Monday, tomorrow Tuesday, we should be able to get them to people in time. It should be fun. Should be a lot of fun.
We've got some pretty heavy hitters in that. I've got the list that you've sent through for this. We've got Hobart Whisky Signature. So is that your standard whiskey? Or is that the new one?
Yeah, so this is a new one we've done. Basically, a marriage of small, and when I say small, 40 and 50 litre American Oak ex-bourbon casks. And the plan for this one is for it to be always available, always there on the shelf, ready to pick up, ready to drink.
Yeah, cool. And then we've got a 40 litre American Oak ex-bourbon, so a small percentage at 62.3.
Yes, yep, that should be a good one. Actually, I don't have the cask numbers in front of me. Otherwise, I probably could have told you a bit about them. But
that's all right. I've got cask numbers if we need to get into it. Another one, you've got the American Oak ex-bourbon, which is a 61. That's cask 40035.
Yes, yep.
And then we've got a American Oak Jack Daniel's one, cask at 58.1. I want to know a little bit, and if you're part of the actual event we're holding, you'll have a little bit more information about it. But can you tell me a little bit about this for people that aren't attending?
All right. So, look, the 240s that are in this lineup, it's pretty standard for us to mature in 40 and 50, 80 and 100 litre ex-bourbon casks. And then this JD cask is actually a big finishing cask. So it's a 200 litre Jack Daniel's cask. And that's essentially our format for our signature is maturing these bourbons and then finish them in the JD cask just to help round them out, marry it together and give it a little bit more. So this is just a bit of a preview to what happens from the 40s to the signature and then, 40 to JD to signature.
Yeah.
So it should be a bit of fun.
With a lot of these being, and some of the, I think we've done 3 of the samples with you guys online, and look, there's a 63.9 and 57s and a 55s. What is your belief? I think that was the big hit one.
Yeah.
When something like that's done, a lot of it's cask strength. When people want to add water and some of that, what's kind of your suggestion for people when they do that?
Look, basically, because they are all pretty high strength whiskies, put them in the glass, let them sit for a bit, at least a few moments, just let the vapors burn off. I don't scrutinize how anybody drinks whiskey at all. Like I just, as long as they enjoy it, they can do whatever they like with it. But with this sort of stuff, every time, I always recommend just put it in the glass, let the vapors burn off, just try it. Don't base your assessment on the first sip. Just have a couple of sips at what it is. Add water to taste, but just drops at a time. Even if you've got a pretty heavy pour, just a few drops of water can really open it up and change it. So last thing you want to do is just drown this whiskey and not be able to, salvage it to drink it.
It is pretty amazing. Like when other cask strengths and stuff we've had, and especially my first journey into it, I was always ice cubes and everything. And now I change away from that. And I'm now just dropping water into everything as I go. And you just get this balance on it, and you can just put a couple bit too many drops in, and then all of a sudden you've lost that perfect where it was sitting beforehand. It's good that you don't judge or have a system that people have to do. So obviously you're from Tasmania or down there, and obviously
Absolutely.
Tasmania is, sorry?
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Sorry, it looked like it's spoken. So Tasmania is obviously well known as Australia's capital for whiskey. What kind of made you pick Hobart for the production?
Look, so our distillery is owned by a local businessman, and it was sort of just like he wanted to make some whiskey. So, I come on board and we're just like, let's make some whiskey. Why not? I think we were distillery number 10 or 11 in the state. So we've been sort of around for a little while, but we flew under the radar, just concentrated on what we were doing, what we wanted to do, setting up, getting established. And it ticked all the boxes for us. Like
Yeah.
Tasmania, look at bloody Victoria and New South Wales now. Who would want to be there anyway? But Tasmania just has everything we want: good water, good air, good environment. It's the same song that a lot of us Tasmania distilleries sing, and it's for a good reason though.
Well, it produces a ton of amazing whiskey. So I'm going to ask, who came up with the name Hobart Whisky?
Look, I have to give credit to Rocky, the director, for that one. When I come on board, we sort of just, I don't really know how it all come about and what happened, but it just all come together. I don't even know how we got Hobart Whisky as a business name and as a trademark. It's pretty incredible, and people still ask me, and it's like, well, you should have been quicker. Just
so you've got another name though called Devil Distillery. What's the two differences?
Right, yeah. So Devil's Distillery is what our manufacturing license and all that is under. So the physical premises is Devil's Distillery, and our whiskey brand is Hobart Whisky. So it is a bit confusing, and quite often I ring people up like, John from Devil's Distillery. My email address is Devil's Distillery, and they're like, who the hell is Devil's Distillery? It's like Hobart Whisky. Oh, yes, yeah, I know you. So we're sort of starting to really just pull back on the Devil's Distillery. It's not necessary, much like how other Tasmanian distilleries have a brand name and then have a distillery name.
Yeah. So how did you get involved then? If it's obviously, you're working for somebody that owns it, how did you start with it all? What was your journey into whiskey?
Dumb luck. I just sort of fell into this role. So I met Rocky quite a few years ago now, just doing a bit of other work for him. So my background is graphic design and marketing, and now turned into business development and all that sort of stuff. So I just met Rocky, just fixing up a few of his things. So Rocky's got a few different things on the go, and I just was doing a bit of work for him. And while I was doing the work, he was like, oh, I'm going to, think about opening a distillery, starting a distillery. Do you want to see where I'm going to put it? I was like, of course I want to see where you're going to put it. Oh, at this point, admittedly, I wasn't really versed in whiskey. I didn't really understand everything, about it. I didn't know much about it, I guess. But, I just went up there and I seen the opportunity. So I just sunk the claws in. I was like, this is what I want to be doing. And, it's a big part of my role working for Rocky now.
Well, that's a pretty interesting way, because obviously so many other people we speak to, especially in this series, and other people that are in distilleries, like they come from either their families involved in it or they were brewing beer beforehand and things like that. And then, they're very well educated about whiskey and beforehand. So with coming in, and as you said, you weren't an expert, and thank you for admitting that, because there's a lot of people will be sitting here going, oh, I wish I could do something like that, but, I don't have the knowledge that all these guys that have been doing it for 30 years and stuff like that. What was what's been some of the biggest, I guess, learning curves for you in the whole business? And I guess it's probably everything, because it's different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's especially in Tasmania, I've been really fortunate that the industry is just so supportive, and we're all good mates. And even early days, I remember just calling up, Pat from Sully's or Bill Lark, Mark Nicholson, Dean Jackson, anyone, just ring up any person in the industry and be like, mate, I've got this problem. I just don't know what to do with it. This cask's not doing this. The still's doing that. They'd call in, they'd talk me through it, would work through it together, because it's not a cutthroat industry. It's not a competitive industry. There's enough market for all of us to make good whiskey and put it on the market. And so, look, I've been quite fortunate, especially coming on, 5 years ago. We just leveraged everybody else's knowledge, and I'm always try to help people now. Like, still, I'm learning every day. It's just all about taking in information and just, personal development, distillery development, brand development, whatever it is. I'm always trying to help people start distilleries and do what they want to do, because it's just such a fun industry, and so much opportunity for all of us there.
So it's actually been really interesting because I come from, my industry is not whiskey, obviously. I come from real estate, and that is cutthroat. That is no one's going to help out. No one. You can't call the competing office and get them to come in and help you with negotiations or anything like that. And it's such a foreign thing, and to hear that, and you would kind of think that you're all trying to get into a market, you're all trying to get similar kind of clientele, that it'd be such a closed-off group. But every single person I speak to, except Crafty from Craftworks, he's New South Wales, says the exact same thing. Everyone is really good and really open and wants to give really good time, which is awesome for it. So okay, so there's a big learning curve for everything there. Would you admit your worst one of your worst big fails? Maybe a cask that didn't work out, or you've dropped a big.
We've probably had a few. Can't really think of. I mean, we haven't had anything catastrophic. Touch wood. We haven't imploded the still. We haven't had massive losses. When we were getting ready to do our first release, we had all our casks on pallets, and they were bringing the pallet off the top rack for our first release, and one of the casks actually dropped from the top of the rack to the floor. This is probably 4 meters, and that's how we learned the casks actually bounce when they're full. So that was quite fortunate. Look, we're probably pretty cautious with how we do it. So we moved into a property that Rocky owned, and it was an old egg pasteurization factory. So a lot of stainless equipment, a lot of dairy vessels, a lot of that sort of stuff. And we didn't just sort of go in whole hog. We looked at it and we just thought, let's upcycle what we've got here. Let's just get things up and running. So early days, our mash was coming from Moo Brew. We always wanted to just move towards doing our own brewing. So we just eased into that like everything else. So we just slowly got our mash tun. It was probably only 6 to 12 months ago we got a chiller for our wash. Before that we were just doing little bits and pieces. So I guess I can't think off the top of my head of any sort of really big fails, because and I do think it's just because we're a bit cautious and maybe just easing through it.
We had one of the guys I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, he put a forklift through a 100-litre barrel that had been aging for 6 years.
No! It's just
I'm not allowed to say who that is or what. To say it's not someone small, but it was the only 100-litre barrel that they were brewing of that. So he still has a job. Good. So he can't fire himself, as he said. So
oh wow, that is traumatizing.
So what's your average day? Like what's your role in the business, and what's your kind of average day then with everything?
Yeah, all right. So average day. So I come on board to sort of take over all the distillation and operations, but very quickly I just realised I didn't have time to do that and everything else that I'm doing. So because I work for Rocky in a bit of capacity beyond just the distillery, my days can be varied, which is not a bad thing. Get to work, normally before I'm even up in the morning, my phone's ringing for one reason or another. A lot of my time is spent on the phone. I get to the distillery, my office is there. You would know exactly what it's like. Anybody would, just dozens of emails, people wanting stuff, people wanting to know stuff. Generally, my day-to-day is just managing the distillery. So ordering, dispatch. So my wife helps with all dispatch. She does all the logistics coming out of the distillery, but I just sort of do the things that keep it going. So do all the bookwork, all the ordering, all that sort of stuff. I prepare all the orders to be dispatched. I'm dealing with wholesale and direct customers. I do the social media side of it. I do sort of just anything that isn't operations related to the distillery. And then, beyond that, I just help Rocky with everything else going on. So I mentioned to you before we went live, I might be selling property. I might be, just trying to fix things that might be in one of this or that company or things like that. So I don't really have a standard day to day. Most of the time I look at my watch and it's like 11 or 12 o'clock and it's like, shit, I haven't done a thing all day. I've just been bouncing around things, doing things. So quite often it probably looks like I don't really do much at all. And
just don't tell the team.
Maybe I don't. I'm really quite lucky that Ben is there to do all of the operations and just keep things happening while I just keep other
How many, peop-
things.
how many people are in your team then, all up?
So it's just me, Ben full-time, who does all the operations and distillation now, and then Rachel, my wife, works sort of 2 or 3 days a week just doing dispatch and labelling, packing, all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
That's it.
So what, we've already asked this question before. If you could pick any cask that you wanted to make whiskey in, what would it be? I already know the answer.
Do you want the same answer? Do you want to know what it is?
Most people wouldn't know. Maybe it's changed. I don't know.
No, so look, I really want to try a tequila cask. Like, I think it would be terrible. I think it would be absolutely woeful to mature single malt in, but just curiosity.
Have you ever heard of it being done before?
No, but to be fair, I also haven't really looked into it. We do a lot based on gut feeling. And my gut feeling is I want to buy a tequila cask and I want to put single malt new make in it.
Is there such thing as tequila casks in Australia, or is it something you'll have to...
I don't think so. It'll probably be something we'll have to get in if we can get one. So, but then, it's just one of those things where you've got to consider tying up spirit. So, a little while ago now, I bought a couple of big port pipes, 650 litre port pipes. But we didn't consider that to fill 1,300 litres was like 5 to 6 weeks of production. So, to fill these casks took 5 to 6 weeks, plus it ties up all that spirit, and now we need to, still wait probably 10, 15 years at least for them. So we've got to be sort of a bit, I guess I've got to be a bit more conscious now of, tequila cask, great novelty, would love to do it, but would it work? I don't know.
Who knows? Well, they just did the sparkling wine cask in from Lark, so who knows? It may work. Who knows?
Did you have you tried the sparkling wine cask yet?
I've got one bottle there, and I've got my open bottle down here somewhere. So
I didn't grab it that one. I grabbed the first month, and I regret not getting the second month. But
I'll send you down a sample, mate. You've done enough for me. I'll send you a sample.
I picked up their sherry cask the other night when I was at the cellar door. So
I didn't get
quite
that
like that.
So what?
I'll send you a sample of that one.
What barrels do you normally play around with then? So you've obviously got your American, your bourbon ones and some of that. You got a Jack Daniel ones. Is that the first time with Jack Daniels?
Sort of. No, we have quite a few different casks in the Bond store. So we do quite a bit of red wine maturation. We sort of steered clear of fortifieds, of the ports and sherries, just because I feel like there's a lot of people doing it, and a lot of people doing it really well, especially in Tasmania and Australia. So a lot of ex-bourbon, the American whiskey casks as well, some wine casks, and then we just like the rums, the rum maples. We just hunt around. People ring me up when they find unique casks that I might be interested in, and we sort of just snavel up those sort of ones because they're a bit more fun, a bit interesting. Just can see how they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the bourbon maple. There's which one was this one? What have I got there? Maple finish one. So talk about that. Most people probably haven't really heard of it, or most people watching this probably have. But say you're a new whiskey person, you've got this maple finish. How do you put maple in whiskey?
Right. So that's our bourbon maple, I think, is it? Or is that our rum maple? I mean, I guess it's the same concept.
Bourbon maple.
Bourbon maple. So last year we did the 2019 Winter Feast. Prior to that, though, somebody rang me up and it's like, I've got these really interesting casks. They had bourbon in them in the States, and they went and had rum in it, Diplomatica rum, and then they went back to the States and they were filled with maple syrup to make a rum cask matured maple syrup. We got them and we drained out the dregs of them, and it was just this really sickly sweet maple. There'd been a bit of spirit left in them, so it was really tasty. But Rachel, my wife, threw it out because she was worried I was just going to eat all of it or drink all of it, and it would make me very sick. It was full of char, and it looked a bit grotty, but it was very tasty. So, these casks, and we actually picked up a few at the time. So the bourbon maples and the rum maples, the principle's the same. They put maple syrup in these casks to mature the maple syrup and then bottle and sell the maple syrup. So, last year we debuted with our rum maple finish at the Winter Feast. And this year we're like, well, let's do it again with a bourbon maple, despite the Winter Feast not happening. And just something a bit different, We didn't really know how it would go. I guess we can assess the risk, and maple's pretty sweet, and it can't really be that bad. But at the end of the day, as long as we're not in a position where we have to put out these whiskies, it's not too bad.
And I guess that's the benefit of being able to experiment like that. It's like you've got your core selection generally. You have a very good following of people that generally what you release you'll sell fairly quickly. But if you want to experiment and it maybe doesn't work, then you've still got you're not actually going, we have to pay bills, we have to sell this stuff. And
That's right.
And that's been if you talk to anyone that talks about your stuff, and I'll be honest, I'd never had Hobart Whisky until I got the first sample pack through. That was the first time I'd ever had it. And convert now, it sucks because now I'm like, everything I'm tasting, I'm just enjoying, and I go buy too many bottles. But you're not in a core range where it's like, okay, cool, one cask is done, let's get it out quickly and try and sell it. Pay it. So that's quite good. So with that, because I've only had there's only been about 3 or 4 whiskies that I know that have had the maple casks done. I think there's yourself and then one other in WA, I think's done it. And there's a couple of them from more bourbons in America that I know of. Sure, there's plenty more that have done it, but it's not something you see at the store every single day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you're talking about Tasmania, it was the Winter Feast. Is that the Tasmanian Whisky Week?
No, so it's a Dark Mofo. So it's the Mona festival they do in winter.
Yep.
So pretty exciting for us to sort of make the cut last year to get an invite to that, and it was a lot of fun. The best event I've done. I definitely do it every opportunity.
When's the 2 different dates? Because Tasmanian Whisky Week is supposed to be at the end of August, isn't it, or middle of August?
Right. So Tasmanian Whisky Week is still sort of happening this year in some capacity, despite COVID. The Winter Feast normally happens. So I guess I may be scolded for not remembering all the Tasmanian events. So we've got the Taste at sort of New Year's, the Winter Feast in June, sort of early to mid-June, and then we have Whisky Week, which is generally the 1st or 2nd week of August. I should know all this. I'm actually on the Whisky Week committee, but
so Whisky Week
I live off my notes, my email.
No, that's right. Yeah, Whisky Week is supposed to be the week of the 10th to the 16th this year, because I'm supposed to be down there for that, and then I was going hiking to do the 3 Capes. So I won't be doing that this year. So. So what are they doing for Tasmanian Whisky Week, or are you guys involved in the Tasmanian Whisky Week this time?
Yeah, so we are. So I'm sort of on the subcommittee for it, as well as committee for the Whisky Association in Tasmania. So we are doing a virtual tasting. I believe it's almost sold out. We're doing a couple of northern Tasmanian events and a couple of southern Tasmanian events. So it's a lot lighter than what you would normally expect. Normally Tasmanian Whisky Week has a big spirit showcase on a Saturday, which is essentially, the grand slam of whiskey in Tasmania. But it should be good. So we've been, really busy packing 2,600 samples, small sample bottles. And when I say we, I mainly mean other people on the subcommittee, and I've largely just been getting distracted by my phone. I think all in all, I've labelled 50 bottles in the whole lot. Right. But we'll be getting sample packs out this week, and the uptake on that's been phenomenal. We weren't sure how people would respond to it. It was a bit short notice because we really didn't know what was happening, but the northern events are almost sold out. We've only just gone live with the southern events as well. So it should be a bit of fun despite everything.
The virtual one, is that something from all of the Tasmanian, or a group of Tasmanian places, or is that just something you're doing out of your business?
No, so it's actually 12 Tasmanian distilleries, plus the Tasmanian Collection blend, the blend we put together last year for Whisky Week was, I think, 15 Tasmanian distilleries. We just sort of put a blend together and bottled it. So, we've got, let me try and think. So in the virtual tasting, there's us, Launceston, Sheen, Killara, Sullivan's Cove, Dark Valley, Lark, Overeem, Spring Bay, 3 more, Belgrove, McHenry. There's one more I'm forgetting. I did so well.
I don't think you mentioned.
I can't think. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't even think you mentioned yourself, so we'll put you in there as well. So
I would have rather forgotten a few though instead of just one, because now there's one person out there that's.
We'll edit it out for you. It's all right.
Yeah,
we'll bleep it all the way through.
Yeah, so that's it. I like it.
Have you got a? I'm not going to bleep it out, by the way. Have you got a special release coming out for Tasmanian Week at all?
No, we don't for Tasmanian Whisky Week this year. So last year we put out a stout cask finish, which was received pretty well and sold out pretty quickly. So not too many people have actually had a chance to try it, I don't think. This year we didn't really prep anything because we didn't know if Whisky Week was going to happen. We are putting out a special release for the virtual Australian Whisky show, though, which is David Ligoff's event coming up in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, I reckon. So that's our... Did I send you a sample of that? So that's bourbon and rum cask matured and Lefroy cask finished.
No, but I was about to say I did get a message from somebody today. I won't say who it is because you'll know who it is. But the photo I got was, and I was going to ask you about this. You've got Lefroy finish, you've got the rum finish, and then the ex-bourbon American oak one. So yeah. There we go. So the Lefroy, that's a 60%. Wow.
60.6%. Yeah. So we bottled it at cask strength. It just drank so well. A few people have tried it down in Hobart. I did send off some samples. I don't know why I didn't send you one. I thought I would have. I'll have to check my notes.
No problem at all. So is that's going to be a release or not?
Yeah. So we've actually got that bottled now. We'll be putting that live, I guess, during the whiskey show. So during the virtual tasting for that show. Yeah, basically we matured in ex-bourbon as we do, put in the rum cask, 200-litre rum cask for about 12 months. And then Ben and myself, we just had the same idea at the same time. We're like, shit, let's put it in this Lefroy cask we got. A day in the Lefroy cask, the peat was already coming through. At 7 days, it was just like peat overload. We're like, we've just completely fucked it. Like we've just got a dirty Lefroy now. And then at day sort of 10 and 11, it started to mellow out a lot. And that's when we decided to pull it out. So it's only in the Lefroy for, 11 days. And pretty happy with it.
So does it have a lot of peat to it, or is it just the smell of the peat?
So there's not so much peat on the nose. It's more on the palate. I will get you a sample before next weekend so you can try it, and then you can give me sort of your opinion of it. But because we are small, we can sort of do whatever we want, and I'm just sort of on a bit of a peat mission at the moment.
Right, okay.
I don't know why or how. I just can't get enough of it.
That's my kryptonite. Is I generally don't like any smoky stuff. I'm slowly getting there. I'm getting some pretty good stuff, and but yeah, anything over the top, I just can't do. I love that red wine. I love the tawny. I love the port. I love the sherry. All that kind of stuff. I just think it's just absolutely beautiful mixes with everything, the balance, everything.
Yep.
Yeah, trying to get into that smoky stuff is just a little bit hard. So.
Yes, I used to be like that. I used to be just like you, and then one day I just went to the bottle shop, picked up a bottle of Lefroy 10. Brought it home, hated it. Worst whiskey I've ever had. And so my workstation is here, and then behind this monitor here, I just have open bottles that, easily accessible. And then it must have been a few days later, I was sitting here and I was like, shit, I just want more of that Lefroy 10. I was sort of really disappointed in myself because I hated this whiskey when I first had it. And then suddenly I'm craving this dirty Lefroy 10. And since then, Ardbegg's probably one of my favourite peated whiskies. Ardbeg, Lefroy, Beaumont, just everything. It all it comes in waves though. So I'm on a bit of a peat mission this month. Give it 3 months, and I'll just be, loving sickly sweet whiskies again, or wine cask.
I think that's the greatest thing about whiskey too. Is that like 1 month? I don't know if it's great. Well, it is, because your palate completely changes all the time, and different modes, like what moods you're in, and like the people you're around, and the experience and stuff like that completely changes what kind of whiskey you want to have. So sometimes, like a cold. Well, you're in I'm in Queensland. You're in Tasmania, so you're always.
Yep.
But at the back here the other week, I got a fireplace for the first time in my life. Yes, Brisbane, we needed a fireplace, and had some smoky stuff. I had Highwayman, so Dan Woolley's stuff.
Yes,
amazing. And then I had a Lefroy. Now I call it the ashtray, not an ashtray. The Whiskey Pete, who we did last time on this, has made it actually his mission now to convert me into a peat monster. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So he slowly...
It'll happen. It will happen. It's, I imagine the rate that you drink whiskey, you'll just get to a point where you want something different. You want to introduce something new. getting you into a Lefroy straight off the bat is probably not going to happen. But
I'm
you
just
know,
gonna let everybody know. So I just opened up or tasted the this is the rum maple finish. That I think the best one out of the whole set for me on that tasting event. So that's why you might have seen my face just go. Oh. But I actually use a lot of the smoky stuff for when I'm cooking. So I do chicken wings. I marinate with whiskey overnight, put barbecue sauce in there, and then let it absorb. And that's generally how I do it. Now, what's funnily enough, talking about that, I've actually got yours, and I will do I'll be definitely doing some chicken wings or something like that on that. So you don't just do whiskey; you've got a little bit of barbecue sauces as well. Product placement. What are the stuff you guys played with when it comes to food? You've got you got some spreads?
Yeah, so we've got so we have the barbecue sauce, and we have a whiskey chili jam and a whiskey preserved apricots. Yeah. Just these are produced in partnership with someone in Tasmania, and looks just why not? We just sorry.
Have they been pretty good success? Like people have been picked it up on pretty well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. People are always raving about the apricots. But I'm just like barbecue sauce, man. Give me some meat and some barbecue sauce.
I'm going to say a swear word when it comes to Tasmanian whiskey, but back right at the start, probably about 5-6 years ago, I used to buy a lot of the Nant marmalade for Dad, and he used to absolutely love it. And I've seen it like available again, so I'm not too sure if they've restarted it again or it's really old stock. I'm too afraid to buy it if it's old stock, but Dad really enjoyed that because it was just a little bit of whiskey flavour, but with the marmalade. And he's 70, so he loves his marmalade. I don't know. I don't know anyone under 50 who likes marmalade.
No, that's it. So yeah, we've toyed with a few other ideas, but much like the whiskey, it's just about making sure it's ready before we put it out to market.
So do you guys have a shop to still? Are you right? Sorry, that was my dog. Do you have a shop you can come into and actually buy, or is it more just a distillery kind of?
No, not at all. Yeah, so we're actually the distillery itself is close to the public. We don't have a cellar at all. We don't have a shop there. Yep. And we do have I think it's a really nice tasting space. It's where I did our last tasting event from. And we sort of get a few private groups through there. So that seems to work pretty well. But it was a conscious decision not to have a cellar door there because with only, sort of 2.5 of us there, we just didn't want that extra distraction and, just taking up time when we could be making whiskey.
Yeah, it's another full income because you couldn't do that by yourself. You'd have to have someone running that all
That's
time.
That's right. And all it's really meant is that we just work a bit closer with our stockists. We drive people to people that to stores that range our stuff, and we're happy with that because it works both ways.
So with that, in what's kind of the branch out? So obviously you can go directly, and we always encourage buy directly from you guys instead of buying it from the big brands and stuff like that. But how's the distribution been? Has it been picked up fairly well, and how accessible?
Yeah, so I guess I've sort of held back a little bit. We haven't really ever had the volume to go big. So the biggest we go is, I guess you'd call them maybe like the flagship stores of 911 down here. We don't have the volume. I've had Woolworths chasing for, First Choice, Dan Murphy's, all that, BWS, but we just don't have the volume. So we work closer with smaller stockers like destination sellers in Hobart, Crown sellers in Launceston, and we can just drive people there or to the 911s or on the mainland, just the small boutique craft bottle shops, which I think is a better fit for our brand anyway than just going big.
You'll end up sending one bottle to Dan Murphy's all around Australia, and then that's it. So
that's right, absolutely. And it's by working closer with smaller stockers means they can understand the product, they can pass on tasting notes, information, our story, and I believe Tasmanian whiskey is just very much about the story. We don't produce enough to go big. We didn't do a gin, so we don't have that outlet as well.
Okay. Yeah. Did you guys do a moonshine right at the start?
Yeah, so and it's still out there. That's actually what I was drinking tonight. So we started with this company called Tasmanian Moonshine Company, and then recently I don't know. I've got terrible concept of time. I'll say recently we sort of renamed it to Tasmanian Spirit Company because the name Moonshine is probably just a bit of a shit name. But, you know, at the time, we're having a bit of fun and just doing it. So, yeah, essentially, we've got a product there, Tasmania Malt, which is a young whiskey, not fully matured, 18 months in the oak, 700ml bottle, drinks really quite well, cut to 43%, vodka, a couple of liqueurs. Yeah, and that just sort of ticked along in the background while we were just getting our whiskey ready. And it's still there, still running.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I was trying to do a little bit of research on my couple of minutes I had before we got jumped on, and there was something about some guy had gone down and got like moonshine. I was like, I hadn't seen that on the site. So, so mate, before we wrap up, what's kind of the most, and I really enjoy this question from everybody. What's the most memorable thing that you've had involving whiskey? Like, it could be a moment or an experience, or like, you know, just getting the job first out. Like you look back and you kind of just sit back and you kind of smile because, you know, and it may not be might not be because of whiskey itself, but you might have been enjoying the whiskey at the time.
Yeah, all right. No, look, I think if it's going to be whiskey related, and it might sound like a bit of a cop out because it's probably not what most people would say, but I mean, I love the social aspect. I love the people of the industry. So the best event I've ever done was the Oak Barrel Whiskey Fair last year. Just I had the time of my life, just being surrounded by that many people in the industry and that many people, you know, interested in whiskey. You know, we've done a few different whiskey shows, and I just love that. Like the whole whiskey show thing, just being able to go and do it and talk to people. Yeah, it's just, but the whiskey fair last year, the one that Scotty puts together, that just stood out to me. That was the highlight of my shows that I've done. So disappointing is not able to do one this year, but yeah, definitely one that I want to be able to do again. Or if I don't get to exhibit, I'll definitely be going along as a punter anyway.
It is interesting how everyone has adapted to, you know, what's happened with COVID, and you guys are you know, a shining light for that, because obviously we've got the tasting pack. This is the one that we're about to be doing, which I haven't even been able to open yet. Haven't had the chance. So again, I'm gonna, mate, thank you so much for joining. I know you've got a very, very busy lifestyle as well. But if you are interested in getting any Hobart whiskey, please go to the website, and it's as simple as hobartwhisky.com.au. Very easy one to remember. And if you are looking to join us, the sample packs will be done, as I said, the ex-bourbon ones. They are available on his website. You'll have to get them either tonight or tomorrow before, otherwise you won't get it in time. And unfortunately, I'm your host for that one, so I do apologize. So, mate, John, thank you so much for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure to chat to you and find out what your story is.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for having me. Sorry it's taken me so long to get on here. We tried to put this together for a little while, but no, it's good. I'm looking forward to next weekend, so it should be fun. Should be a bit of fun.
All right, mate. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you.